Happy Thursday, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of And That's the Game. As we have seen throughout the course of the spring/summer/ into the fall, the pandemic has left us sitting around at home having to do something. So we found ourselves watching sports. Well, the interesting thing is women's sports, the WNBA and the NWSL saw a major increase in their viewership over the course of the pandemic. I thought there would be no better person to talk about this today than the host, one of the co-hosts of Play Like a Girl, Laura Caruso. Laura, welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Matt.
So, as I mentioned in the lead-in, and as you and I were talking off air before we started this show, the WNBA and the NWSL both saw 300% viewership increases over the course of this summer as the pandemic occurred, even though they were playing sort of abrupt and abbreviated seasons in a bubble format. How impactful is that for women's sports going forward and for the next generation of young girls playing?
Oh, I think it's super important. I mean, for years, we've all known, as a woman in sports, we've all known that the media coverage of women's sports is very, very small compared to men. So I honestly believe that the viewership has increased because of this pandemic. There's less sports to watch. So let's see what's on and let's watch it. And then people are realizing that women's sports is just involved just as fast and they're really into it. So I think that girls now have this idea that no matter what, we want to have this attention as much as men because we work as hard as men. We do as much practice. We put in as much effort and emotion into the game as them. And seeing that we've had 300% increase, especially Women's Soccer League. I mean, they won the championship, of course. And then the NBA, WNBA with the names and with the BLM movement, super helpful as well. So I really think all coming together, all of that was really helpful, and it's going to continue to be too if we keep up with it.
Seattle Storm won their fourth WNBA championship this year. Sue Bird, 17 years in the league. She has been a part of all four of those Seattle Storm championships. And
seriously,
it seems like the old guard of the WNBA, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, like that, don't seem to be going away anytime soon, but yet the fascination over the new players like Asia Wilson and Elena Delle Donne and Sabrina Ionescu has a kind of awkward rookie year, injured, but then, it still made a splash. How big is that for showing that 25 years into the league, there's another 25 years to come?
Exactly. I mean, I think that too kind of shows something with the team, with the organization in itself, because these women are there and they're also, if you're a rookie and you've been in the league for 17 years, you're helping those rookies out. I mean, you're leading them too. So they have the support of women who've been in the league for 17 years. It's very helpful. And it's helpful to know that you can have that support and have that level of confidence starting young, because you can get to a really good level after all those years. And I know that the generations obviously have changed within those 17 years too. So the older generation may not even realize the possibilities with media coverage. And then these new rookies know if they're continuously posting on their accounts, they'll get that coverage that we need and want, of course, and deserve.
The biggest impact, a huge conversation point that's been basically since the U.S. women's national soccer team won that fourth World Cup championship a couple of years ago, has been the equality factor, equal pay for equal play. We've seen some sports like tennis, golf, squash, already have made those shifts to having equal purses in the French Open, equal purses at the US Open. I've worked around the squash scene for 7 years. We've had equal purse at the majors in the PSA squash tour for 4 or 5 years now. And yet there becomes this huge disparity as we are still seeing companies like Budweiser, Verizon, Google, etc. come in that, I talked about this this past week on Sports World Weekly. Sue Bird got $11,000 as a bonus for winning the WNBA championship. LeBron James got $300,000 as a bonus. LeBron James' NBA championship bonus was more than Sue Bird's base salary
Yes.
for the year. And yet, the WNBA attendance averages, market share, and TV revenue is equal to that of when the NBA began in 1971. Their average salary in 71-72 was $71,000. If you adjust for inflation, that's about $500,000 today.
Yeah.
Why is Sue Bird not making $500,000?
Yeah, I've heard so many stories of how the pay for women's WNBA doesn't move. Like, moves very slowly, if it ever moves. You know what I mean? And I understand, like, I am the type of person to know that the money that they're getting paid in the NBA comes from their viewers, comes from the engagements, comes from the sales. I know that. I'm not ignorant to that, of course. But I do think that there is a level of, because you said tennis and squash and all this stuff are equal. I play tennis, and I understand that those are very individual sports, and that's why they're easy to make that transition. With these team women's sports, they group us as a team. They really do, rather than the men. Like, so that's why they're able to pay less. If the team doesn't do well, then everyone on the team doesn't do well. So that's what has to change. The big group team, like the teams, they need to be focused on more individually and what individually we bring to the table, because that's what's looked at in men's sport as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, the WNBA collective bargaining agreement, I think, also is something that needs to be shuffled as well, too. In the NBA, 49% of league-generated revenue gets trickled down to the players. In the WNBA, it's about 29%.
Exactly.
Down to the players, and yet the WNBA is bringing in, about 1/3 of what the NBA is. So the numbers just don't seem to match up, right?
Yeah,
still.
If anything, the WNBA should be taking more, and the NBA should be taking less. But I mean, that's been going on for years, so
yeah, it's something that we're gonna have to see how this shifts around.
I think honestly, after this pandemic, like I said, people are realizing that women's sports is just as the same level. So I assume, I hope that it's going to increase. Like the possibilities are there now.
Yeah, you mentioned about the Black Lives Matter movement and about what the WNBA did, and especially we saw that with those 2 days where they kind of just stopped playing games.
Yes.
That came sort of right around the incidents of the Jacob Blake shooting in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
that really kind of set that off.
Yeah,
women's sports has always been the catalyst point for conversations, it seems, around social justice issues, and we've seen that through whether it be the LGBTQ plus movement, through through criminal justice and social justice movements. Is the WNBA, or actually, I'll just say it this way, is women's sports really about to become more the forefront of leading conversation?
Yeah.
Becomes a big marketability for them as well.
I believe so. I do. And ever since a young girl, I've always known the WNBA women's sports, they do a lot. They do a better job. Yeah, starting the conversation or kind of getting the picture out, advertising what they're trying to say. And I think that with both of these things, the willingness to get out there, start the conversation, have these conversations, stand for what they believe in, and the ability to show the talent on the court, get in the viewers, get these engagements, it's really going to heighten the viewership of women's sports and kind of their organization and what they stand for too. It's definitely going to be helpful.
We've been talking the impact of women's sports and the pandemic, how it helped to grow the game, with Laura Caruso, one of the co-hosts of Play Like a Girl. Laura, just give us a quick bit before we sign off here about Play Like a Girl and what you got coming up on the show.
Play like a girl. I mean, we all know the term play like a girl, but we turn it into a positive and say, no matter what, play your hardest. You should be playing like a girl, and you're going to show them that it's good no matter what. You're better than them, and you can do anything you put your mind to. Our next episode is Monday at 8 p.m. And we actually have a mother and daughter coming on our show. So I don't want to say too much, but we are excited to have you guys with us. Thank you for having me, Matt. I had a good time.
Well, I know for as much as I love and support women's sports and as much as I watch all the players, I wish I could play like a girl because some of these girls play way better. They play way better than I ever did, and especially in the NWSL and the U.S. Women's National Team as a soccer player for 25 years, they play way better than me.
Yeah, it's you look at them and you're like, wow, I was never good. Never mind.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.